it's actually so funny. I have so many people that I've gotten like Dune and Dune, and people always ask me like, "Have you watched the movie Dune?" Because your name's Dune. I'm like, it's not my name, but yes, I have watched the movie.
All right, so this is the Big Friendly Swim podcast because I'm big and I'm friendly. And I was wondering if you could just introduce yourself and walk us through like your history in swimming and what's brought you to Georgia.
Yeah, so I'm Duné Coetzee. I swim at the University of Georgia now. It's my third year. I'm a junior, and it's crazy because I feel like I've been here for like not even a year. The time goes by so fast. But I started swimming when I was very young, like for water safety and everything. So I was always on my like primary school. I was on the swim team. A little. That's the actual only pool that I have ever swum in that was yards. Was my primary school pool before I came to the US. So I started swimming when I was very young, and I just fell in love with the sport immediately. I remember I was doing like different sports like gymnastics and netball. I don't know if you know what netball is, but it's like basketball, but just a little different. But I was doing a bunch of different sports, and like swimming takes up so much time. So I had to choose what I want to do. And I just somehow chose swimming, and it's been working out really well. I started swimming age group level when I was, I think, ten years old. And I moved to a new coach around that time too. Her name is Linda de Jager, and it was at Tough Swimming. So once I started swimming there, it just went like, everything started falling into place, and I was just starting to swim really, really well. And I want to say when I was about like 12 years old, that's when I started realizing, okay, like I might be starting to get really good at this. We have this thing we had when I was younger. I don't like it was like 10 years ago how our different levels in swimming works. It was like level one is a certain time, level two is a certain time, level three, and then you have senior nationals. And I made my level three meet when I was like 12, I think. And that's when I think I truly started realizing, okay, now I can do something. And started breaking like South African, the age group records when I was 12. And I actually made my first senior national meet when I was 13, which is really, at that time, it was very young but now we have a lot of 13-year-olds making it. So, yeah, that's kind of my history in swimming in South Africa, and then I just started making more junior like international meets, junior worlds teams, junior Africa teams, and I ended up in Georgia, which is amazing. So yeah, it's been going great.
Can you talk about like that first experience that you had on like the junior national team, and then when you kind of started to realize, okay, I could be on the senior national team, and when you made that jump, how did it feel?
Yeah, so I mean that's really long ago, but we don't have. So I know how in the US you have. I'm not sure how it works, but like I think the top four makes like the US national team, and then you're on that team for a while. I think that's how it works. But with us, you kind of just make the team per meet. So I made my first junior South African team for the Junior African Games, which was in Egypt in 2015. And that was like, I was like, wow, like it's my junior, like it was so cool. And the whole experience it was amazing. And I think I went to Egypt twice for the same meet, 2 years later. Um, but I think that's when I really, realized, okay, like maybe international swimming is something I could really start thinking about and doing. And my first senior South African international meet was 2018 Commonwealth Games, I think, um, which was also amazing. It was in Gold Coast. And it was so great just finally making a team with names like Chad Leclerc, Cameron Vandenberg, Tatiana Schumacher, and like seeing her win her first gold medal at Commonwealth Games there was crazy, and it was just so inspiring. And I felt really like, wow, the hard work that I've been putting in for so long, it's like finally starting to show off. So it's just always been such an honor to represent South Africa, and yeah, it's just been great.
So talk to me a bit more about that growing up training in South Africa, because it's something that I actually got to talk to Bert Leclos back in
Mhm.
February, and it's something that he explained to me a little bit, but I'd love to hear about it firsthand from an athlete who trained there. And then how has it been different in the training in South Africa compared to the U.S.?
Yeah, so when I grew up, um, I swam in a long course pool the whole time, and it was an outdoor pool. Great pool. I think it's a 12 lane, 50-meter outdoor pool, which is
Oh
really,
wow!
really, yeah. No, it's crazy. It's a really, really nice pool. The only downside about it is when it gets cold, it's really cold. Like not outside, but the pool itself, like that's when it was really difficult. I remember when it's still like this now. My sister swims there. So in the mornings, it's like too cold for them to keep the pool water like warm, even though we have like the blankets on top of the pool. So you have to find somewhere else to swim. So you need to swim in a gym or like something like that. So when I was very young, we had to start like taking out gym membership so that I could like do my double in the winters in a different pool because it was like too cold to open up the pool. Otherwise, we couldn't swim our main session in the afternoon. So there was like a lot of challenges surrounding that, and especially I don't know if Bert told you about load shedding, where
I I vaguely remember that term, but you should explain it to me again because
yeah,
I don't quite remember.
it's where like the power gets turns off, like they switch the power off in certain areas in the
Oh
country
yeah.
at certain times. Yeah. So because of that, especially the pool where I was swimming, the heat pumps broke quite often because like it can't support the power being turned off and on and off and on the whole time, and it would be like 3 times a day, and the pool just never got hot. So we had to find somewhere else to swim, which was quite challenging. But I made it work because luckily close to my home, I have two gyms that I have a membership at and swam there. My coach sent me sets and stuff. Um, the training squad that I grew up in, I was the only female at my like speed in freestyle and butterfly. So I used to swim a lot of butterfly at that time. So I used to race the boys, and we, I mean, it was fun, and I really loved swimming with them. But it's kind of different racing a guy when like you just want to have some girls to swim with, and like so I always like kind of just swam by myself, like the only fast girl I want to say on the team. So that has been a huge difference from training in South Africa to the US. Because I mean, here we have almost like 24 goals at the same speed, and we're all pushing each other every single day, especially our distance group. Me, Rachel Segi, and Abby, we are very close in speeds, and it's so fun to just have some like women train with you at the same speed, and like we're going through the same type of stuff, and we're pushing each other so hard every single day. So I mean, that was also a very big reason why I chose to come to America, because of the training competition and racing competition as well. I mean, I've never raced this much in my whole entire life because we don't have a lot of meets, a lot of opportunity back home to race. I think there's 3 big meets in a year, and that's it. So um, the racing and being able to swim with people has been, I think, one of the best things I could have ever done in my swimming career. Best choice I've ever made to have people with me. And also yards, never swum yards before I came here. So when I came in my freshman year, I remember like first practice, I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. Like 27 on a 50 freestyle, like that's really fast. But like now I'm like, okay, like no, that I can hold that. But that was a little bit of a challenge, but luckily I had a lot of like the coaches were so understanding because we've had some South Africans and a lot of international swimmers go through the program. So yeah, that was like the biggest changes for me.
I think it's interesting, and it's something I've always wished the people in charge of South African swimming would be better at. It's not like there's only one or two big stars in South Africa. There's a number of exceptionally talented swimmers, and we saw it in like 2019 when Zayn Waddell won gold in the 50 bag, but then
Yeah.
just didn't have enough money or funding or motivation through COVID to keep going.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
something that I've always like questioned, like why didn't they put more focus on? You've got a lot of really big stars here.
Yeah. I mean, that's also a big reason why I chose to come here because I can't even put into words when people back home ask me like how's it different? Like what do you get? Like I mean, over here I don't have to worry about swimming fees, like coaching fees. The biggest thing for me too was like getting physio and getting treatment on your body and like recovery and all that type of stuff. Like back home we have to, I mean, my parents had to find ways to pay for that. And luckily, I didn't grow up struggling financially, so my parents were able to help me out. But there's so many kids that doesn't have that's not fortunate enough to have their parents pay for all that stuff. And on top of that, they have to think about paying for school and all of that stuff. So I think a financial part is like it is also a big reason why I chose to come here, just because there's so much more support, and you just like when you're an athlete, you just want to swim and you want to do what you have to do. You want to swim, you want to get your recovery lift and all that type of stuff. And now there's so much additional worries adding to your stress because you don't have money, and it is really sad. Hopefully something that will change in the future, but yeah.
Yeah, hopefully. It almost makes you wonder, like, which of these athletes, like with Zayn as an example, who have been less fortunate with just funds and money and time, which of them could have come up and been like the new Chad Leclos, or I'm gonna butcher her name, Tatiana, and then how do you say her last name?
Schoenmaker.
Schoenmaker?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
I've always been terrified of saying her name because I'm like I'm gonna butcher it so completely. But it almost makes you wonder, like, how many people are missing out that could have been these new rising stars for South African swimming.
Yeah. I have to add on to that though. I think some of the struggles that we do go through is, I think that's also, that kind of adds to our like hardworking and like all of that type of like the mentality. Because I mean, I come here and I was like, I have this huge opportunity. Like people are investing so much money and time and like effort into me. So like I'm gonna give it every single thing I have. And I think that's why there is a lot of people, and there is some juniors upcoming now that's looking very promising. And I think that's one of the reasons why, because like all we can do is work hard, because like there's nothing like else we can do. So I think not having everything and not having all of this glamorous stuff, it adds to, I'm just gonna work hard and try and get to maybe another country and try and get like funding and stuff like that. So
I think there's a few South African Olympic gold medalists who would agree with you. And I think it also creates a sense of camaraderie amongst the people who are going on these senior international meets and these junior international meets. I remember either this summer or the summer before, in the women's 50 breaststroke, I found it really, like, I guess almost touching that I think Lara Van Niekerk got
yeah, we're very
17th.
good friends.
She got like 17th in the 50 breast, and then Tatiana Schoenmaker scratched out of the event.
Yeah.
And then she ended up making it into the final off of that scratch.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if that was
day.
intentional.
Yeah, I haven't spoken to any of them because I haven't seen them in a while about that specific race. But I remember her doing that, and I was just like, wow, like that just shows how much love we have for each other when we're on teams like that, and like the support and stuff we show towards each other, because like we go through a lot of like difficult and hard times together, and they don't even swim at the same club team, so they don't see each other like that often. But she was still willing to do that for her, and I mean that was just crazy. Oh, I was actually in China when that happened at World University Games, and I
Oh
remember
yeah,
I
that
was like,
was so. It was this summer.
yeah, yeah, it was great. Like I got goosebumps when she did, like when my coach told me she did that. So yeah, it was awesome.
It's something that I've never really seen from the US. I've seen like veterans give up their final slot for like somebody who's their first Olympic team and they want to give them that chance. But I've only seen it from like quote unquote smaller swimming countries that aren't like the US, Australia, where people will give up a spot that they could have medaled for one of their teammates who they know is younger and upcoming and has a really good shot at doing so too.
Yeah.
So you touched on training with the distance group at Georgia, and I'm curious because this is something that kind of came out of nowhere this year. The
Yeah.
women's 500 free is
It's
like
so fast.
it's so fast now. What
Yeah.
happened?
I well, it's like I personally was in so much shock when I went that time because like I've been stuck on a 38 for 2 years. I went that freshman year at NCAA's. And I remember Jack telling me when he was still at Georgia, he was like, I think you can be a 37. And I went at 38 and I was like, oh, damn. Like, but anyway, um, it's crazy. Like, invite for me was not that big of a, like, focus meet because I'm training through December because I have Worlds in Qatar in February. So I was like, I'm not tapering. I'm not going down. Like, I just want to. But in the back of my mind, I was also like, you Loki only have invite to qualify for NCAAs because I'm not going to SECs next year because of Worlds. So, or World this year in February. So, when I went that time, there's some pictures. I don't know if you've seen them, but I was like
I've
holding my
seen
breath.
them.
I was like, what? Because I
One
never
of them
thought
will
I would.
probably end up in the thumbnail.
I was like, don't do that really bad one. Have you seen the really bad one on Swim Swam?
I think so.
There's
I'll
some
send it to you to
there's
make
some
sure.
pretty there's some pretty bad pictures of me when I'm like so surprised with what I've just done. But I think that like my reaction just sums up like our whole training group here at Georgia because we push each other so much and we sometimes just do stuff that we're like, wow, I did not expect me to do that, but in reality, like, there's no reason why we can't do that because we train so hard, put in so much yardage, go so fast in practice that on race day we kind of just found a way to put it together. And um, for me, it's such a great honor to be able to swim so fast and be able to swim with these amazing women. And having Rachel next to me, that was also amazing. Like we train together in the same lane every single day, and it was just crazy to see. I think I like stopped at the wall and I was like holding her and I was pointing and I was like, Steggy, look at what you just went. So like we were both like, wow, like it's so amazing and so incredible. Like I get so excited to know that the 500 is like it's crazy fast and it's gonna be so fun to race that at NCAA's. It was very much of a surprise, as I said earlier. I didn't even know what the A cut was. So from like I went that and I was like, wow, doing that not really rested or I didn't even do anything special to prepare for the meet in terms of like taper or stuff like that. So it's just so exciting and I'm so excited for the race at NC's.
I think it's almost become like a ripple effect of people have seen, oh, you can go fast in season if you're having fun and if you're enjoying yourself. And it's something I think coaches have seen too, talking to a few coaches across the country this past year. They've talked about like our athletes are going faster and they're having fun. It's
Yeah.
it's a really simple concept that I'm surprised wasn't like grasped earlier, but like I'm glad it's
Yeah.
being understood now.
Yeah, I mean that's the biggest thing for me. When I was younger, I really did put a lot of pressure on myself in terms of times. I was like, I need to be going this and this and this and this. And once I got here and once I like have been working with some of the best coaches in the world, I want to say. They just taught me, you know what, Duné, like you put in the work, you literally give your everything every single day. On race day, it's all about just having fun. Like sometimes I still see Jack when he like watches the comes and watches our meets, and the only thing he says is have fun out there. So like it's so important to, I feel like, not put too much pressure on yourself when race day, even practices, like we are gonna have bad races and gonna have bad practices. It's so important not to beat yourself up and to, you know, because I used to, as I said, be really bad about beating myself up. Like I think even last year at SECs, like it wasn't what I wanted, and I was very hard on myself. But as soon as you realize it's just a sport, like we're gonna stop doing it at some point, and just while you have the few years you have to do it, just enjoy it, because it doesn't matter. Like it doesn't help if you put so much pressure on yourself that you're just hating what you do every single day. So I think that's the most important thing, and it's so fun just having your teammates with you, and just also swimming for something bigger than just yourself. I think that's a big thing that I've been loving swimming in America, is you have all of these teammates that you're swimming for and trying to score points. And yes, it's really cool for me to swim my 435 that I did, like great, but like I did that for my team too. Like the celebrations we had afterwards, like them yelling, like hugging me and all that stuff. Like that's what it's all about, not just the times and the places you go. So
I think it's as many faults as the NCAA system has, which there are several, but I think it's one of the many things it also gets right, is that it creates this atmosphere where you can have like this family of people who all train together and are all supporting each other, even like not just at a D1 level, at every level of college competition. It's this
yeah.
really unique atmosphere that we've been able to create, where you can be going these super fast times and celebrating with your teammates, and then you can celebrate with them when they go those fast times too.
Yeah. I think that's the beauty of swimming, and I think any sport is, if you have like a team to do it with, it just adds so much to it. And also when you're not swimming great, just having like that family aspect of it, when you just had a bad race and you know you have people that's like, you know what, it's one bad swim, we're here to pick you up. I actually, when I went to ASU, was, I think it was our first travel meet. I was going through a very, very tough time because my grandfather passed away in South Africa, and I couldn't be there. But I like got the team together after I was still managed to go really fast. I think that's when I went my 9:35 in the 1,000, which at that time was the fastest time. Um, and I like got the team together after, and I was like, guys, the reason why I could just keep on racing and keep on going in the past few days is like because you guys were here. You just have, sometimes when you don't feel like you can do it, you just have other people just literally pushing you in the water. Not literally, but you know, like I felt my teammates' support and love that they have for me to go through that difficult time. And I think that's like the beauty of the sport and having team with you.
You know, for me, I swim at a community college level, so it's like the complete lowest point on the totem pole compared to like Division 1.
Yeah.
But it's exactly the same atmosphere as what you're describing. Like even though
Yeah.
we have some people who at our conference meet were racing events that they'd never swam before, and the whole team gets behind them and is behind them on the blocks and is cheering for them, and it's kind
Yeah.
of amazing to me like how no matter where you're swimming, as long as you've got a good group of people behind you, like you can get through anything.
Yeah, that's so true. And I even like feel that when I'm back home or like competing at my nationals, or when I was competing at in China, I was getting so many texts and like on the group meets and stuff. They're like, "Go Danae, like we're so proud of you," like all of that type of stuff. Like you have your teammates with you, even though they're not physically with you, and that also just adds so much to, and that makes you want to go faster. Like you want to go faster for your teammates that's supporting you. You know?
I A story that I can share kind of similar to that, like team support, is after I recently ran out of my college eligibility, so I'm done. And after my last meet, after my last race, I just broke down, like
Yeah.
completely in shambles. And I never cry. I'm not much
Yeah.
of like a huge crying person, but I was like ugly crying. And my whole team was hugging me, and like I went into the
Yeah.
showers to get like changed and ready to leave, and like all the guys were like telling me like how happy they were to swim with me. And it was just a similar experience of like you when you put forward good things and you're kind to other people, like it'll come back around.
Oh, for sure. I saw that because my best friend Kelly Dickinson, she did her last NCAA race, well, last college race at NCAA's last year, and as soon as she finished, like we all just attacked her and we were like, "I'm so proud of you," and like, "Thank you." And she was crying and I was crying, like everyone was just crying, and it's so great to just like we're genuinely happy for each other, which I think it's just amazing having that in your life.
So speaking of a team environment, but on a bigger stage, I want to touch on your time at the Olympics in 2021, even though it's called 2020 Olympics. I'm wondering how that year delay affected you, because it affected everybody differently.
Yeah.
And then, how do you think the Olympic year would have gone for you had it been in the original slated 2020?
Yeah, so well, the Olympic experience and like general just being there was it's like I can't really describe it. It was just amazing. I mean, it's a dream that I've had since I was very, very young. So just being there and being able to compete on the biggest stage was like it's such an honor and it's probably the best moment of my life so far. So it was great. I mean, I wish that my family was there, and I also wish like we had fans because what was very weird for me was because I competed in the 4x200 free. Just walking out there and I went second and I was like looking up and I was like, wow, it's really empty. Like imagine how cool it would have been if everything was just filled. But even though it was just like our team sitting there, it was crazy and like you could still feel the energy and stuff. Um, with the delay, I mean, I think it definitely helped me because it gave me more time. It gave me more time to prepare um, mentally and physically. I'm someone that like I always want to do the most I can do, like whether that means like staying in longer or doing more practice and stuff like that. Like I that delay really helped because I was like I'll always take more time. Like it's good for me to have more time. Although, so how lockdown or like quarantine or whatever worked back home is we weren't allowed to like get out of our houses at all, except if you needed like groceries or something, or if you went to the doctors. So we weren't allowed to walk around, like exercise or run or anything for like 3 months. So basically, what I did was I tied like a cord to a tree and I swam in my little backyard pool for 2 hours or an hour and a half. And I hated every single second of it because I was like, I'm in one space the whole time with my snorkel. And I'm like, oh, this is so bad. But I still did it. But I think mentally it was hard for me because I always like want to do the most. And I was completely like shut down. Like you can't do anything. That was really hard for me. Um, so I want to say like the delay was a blessing and also like hard at the same time because I was like obviously like stressed, like, damn, am I gonna like be able to come back from 3 months? But on the good side is it showed me that recovery and like taking a mental break sometimes is the best thing that you can do. Because I came back out of that 3 months of not doing anything pretty quickly. And how? Okay, so the qualifying was very weird for like us because we'd never had a 4x200 freestyle relay in the previous worlds to be able to be like top 12 in qualifying. So how we qualified was there was the four spots up for grabs, and we just randomly one day like South Africa flew us out to Cape Town, and they were like, "Okay, we're gonna put you in a 4x200 free relay." and we're going to see what you go. This is the time that we think would get you top 16 or like that top 4 spots. So let's see if you can do it. And we did it. We swam the time and we were all like, yes, like that's great. We probably have a spot. Like we're going to the Olympics and everything. And then as I got closer to the time, another team beat us. And that moved us down. So we were 17th. So I was like, okay, so now I'm out. Like I didn't qualify individually. So in the back of my mind, I was like, okay, I'm not going to the Olympics. And that affected me pretty hard because I was like, I was working so hard. I had this extra time and now like we're out. And I remember my dad got a phone call from the head of swimming, I think, Swimming South Africa. And he said, like, Duné's going to the Olympics. And my dad was like, no, she's not. Like, what are you talking about? And he was like, no, a team scratched. They're in top 16. Like, they're going. And I was like crying. I was like, wow, like, this is how? Like, what happened? Like, thank you to the team that scratched. Because, like, we're going now. And it was great. And that, like, I mean, that just motivated me so much. And immediately I got, like, back in the pool and I was so ready to go. But it was tough, like, especially not knowing whether or not you're going to go because of that scratchings and, like, COVID and all of that. I think mentally that was the hardest part because there was so many ups and downs the whole time. So I don't know if it wasn't if it was held in 2020 if I would have gone. I don't think I would have gone because we haven't swum a relay up until that point. And individually, looking back at it now, I don't think, because I was trying to make it in the 200 fly, but looking back at it now, I was pretty far from it, and I don't think I was the swimmer that I was 2021 and now. Like I'm completely different swimmer, and I don't think at that time like what I could have put forward was going to be good enough to make the team. So in that sense, the delay was like awesome for me. So
That's actually like really, really interesting because I've never heard from somebody firsthand how that like those 4 wildcard spots, I think that's what they're called, how those
yeah.
4 spots work. So that's really interesting that they flew you guys in. They're like, all right, go swim.
Yeah, we were very excited because they thought like it's the first women's relay to ever represent South Africa at Olympics. So we made history, got a South African record. It was great. But we were all like, okay, this is so random, so out of the blue, like, but I guess like let's do it. And I mean, we did it, and it was just I wouldn't have had it any other way. If I look back at it now, like having my first Olympic performance with a team, with a relay team, and it's like 4 girls that, I mean, we worked so hard to get to this point, and having them with me was great. And but it was so stressful in the same time, like knowing that I'm not going, like setting my mind on, okay, you're not going because another team beat you, and then it just changing up, like it was so like messy, and I was like, whew. But at the end it worked out.
And just being able to be part of like such a historic relay too. I had no idea that there had never been another women's relay for South Africa before that.
Yeah. So it was pretty awesome just knowing that, and knowing that I was part of the first one. So it's really special to me.
I think it's a show of like resilience on the part of all 4 of you that you guys were first of all able to train hard enough to be in the position where somebody was like, yeah, you could go to the Olympics, like come try for this relay. And then to be able to power through that probably stressful period of time where you're like, is somebody going to pass us? Oh God, somebody did pass us. Oh
Yeah.
wait, somebody scratched, we're going. It's just
Yeah,
a show
it was,
like, go ahead,
we yeah, oh, sorry. We were like, I remember just watching the results of every single swim meet, like every international meet. I was like, yes, they didn't beat us, or yes, they did. And like, no, they didn't, all of that. So it was like, it was crazy. And it was the hard time. I think the hardest time was when we saw that someone beat us. Well, this was at least for me. When I saw that someone beat our time and we weren't in the top 16, um, trying to still go to practice after that and still being like, okay, like maybe there's a chance that we can still go, like trying to find that motivation of, okay, let me just swim, but you don't really know what you're swimming for. That was the hardest part. But as soon as we got told, listen, like we can go, it's like, okay, I'm glad I stayed in the pool and I'm glad I pushed through. And like, as you said, like, I'm glad I was resilient through that tough time because like it paid off at the end. So,
So my last question for you before we wrap things up is more of like I guess an analytical question. That's not really the right word. But I'm wondering if you could walk me through like an average Georgia test set, like something that you guys do like weekly or every other week, just some sort of test set that you guys do, and how like that set has progressed for you in the amount of times that you've done it.
yeah. So we don't do every, we have different practices every day and we don't repeat too much, which I like because it keeps things interesting. Like you never know what you're going to get. But there's this, there's a few. One set's called jump outs. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's like between 20 and 30 50s long course, all out, and you jump out every time, like get out of the pool, get on the blocks, and go. And the hardest part, believe it or not, is getting out of the pool and getting on that block. Like the swimming, I can push through, but getting up and going, like that is crazy. And I've been doing that. I want to say we try and do that every 5 weeks. Because when you're done with that practice, you cannot do anything. You just lay down and you're like shattered for like 3 days. So I actually think we might be doing this on Saturday. Like that's what the whole team is thinking we're doing. I really hope not, but so if I think about how like my first time I did that in freshman year, I did some of it butterfly and some of it freestyle. Now I only do it freestyle, but I would start off with like 29s from a dive, which not really fast, but I did it the other day and my first 50 was something like 28 low and I could just keep that for like 30 50s, which is crazy because I'm not that great at 50s at all. I mean, I'm distance swimmer. I like having the hundreds on repeat the whole time, that type of stuff. So that practice, I've progressed so much in that. And that's something that even though it's so hard, it's one of my favorite practices because we support each other so much in that too. Like you always hear someone saying like, let's go Duné or let's go like whoever your teammates is like that. One of my favorite practices. Then we have our 10-100 kick, which I hate that practice because my kicking is so bad. It got a lot better, but when I was back home, we didn't do kicking at all. Like every now and then we would just swim, like kick a little bit, but never had kick sets at all. And I got here and I remember like the coaches were like laughing at me at some point. They were like, "This is bad. This is really bad. I don't know what we're gonna do." But I had a shoulder injury last year, and I was out for about, I want to say, a month and a half to 2 months, where I could just kick. So I was really working on my kick, and that practice, like I got really good at that. It's like 10-100s. We do it almost once every month or once every 6 weeks, almost too. And each time the send off gets quicker. So like we would start like this is short course yards. We would start like on 2 minutes, which is pretty like slow, and then you go to like 150, 140, 130, but you try to go the same times. I remember last year I progressed like I think 4 seconds from when I did the first time to the second time, which is crazy. But now since I'm more in distance group and we don't do that much kicking and I don't need that much kicking, I've gotten a little bit worse at that practice. So I don't like when we do that one anymore. And then also we actually did a test set on Wednesday, yesterday. We did 8-100s on 6 minutes, just all out from the beginning, from the blocks. And I've done that a few times, and this is the first time that I have been under 51.5 for every single one of them. And I got faster as I was swimming. So, which is something that I would usually go fast and like stay there, or I would just go slower. And now I've been like going faster, which I mean, that's like distance group training that's been helping me and all that type of stuff. But every single thing we do here is so hard, and so like you push yourself to the limit every single day, and that has been helping me so much through our test sets and through our racing, and like that's something I hold on to, and that I also tell people that's like nervous before their races or something, is like this race has nothing compared to the 30 jump outs that we did a few weeks ago. Like you can do so much more in this race than what you think, because look at what we've done in the past, like in practice. So yeah, that's just a few of
That
our tests.
that jump out sounds awful, but actually sounds like it would be like kind of fun to do at least once.
Yeah, it's it's actually so funny because your one leg gets is so sore the next day, and it's the leg that you use to like step
Oh,
onto the
to get
block.
out.
Yes. So like for me, it's like my right leg is always. I'm like, why is only one of my legs like so sore? I was like, oh wait, we did jump out. But it's like it's so hard and so challenging mentally just to keep your focus. And I think the hardest thing for me in that practice is to remember, like, just focus on what you're doing right now and focus on the next one. Like, yes, you might have 2950s left, but just focus on what you're doing right now. And that's the only way, like, I honestly get through something like that. But even though it's really hard, it's really fun because you look back and you're like, wow, like I did that. And it's great to know that. So,
It's definitely one of those sets that would like collectively bring everybody together and be like, all right, we can do this.
yeah, definitely.
All right, well, Duné, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Before we end things off here, I always give time at the end of interviews for the person I'm talking to, basically to just have time to either promote something of their choice or just have some free speaking time to talk about whatever they want. So the floor is
Yeah, I
yours.
don't I don't have anything to promote, but I would say I can give some advice for like younger swimmers, I guess. Just like have fun, as we spoke about it earlier. It's just a sport, it's not your life. Like you are not only a swimmer, like you are so much more than that. And I feel like realizing that at a young age is so important. Like find something else, find something that motivates you, like to figure out why you're swimming. Like find your why. For me, I'm a big Christian, so for me, I like my why is to give glory to God, and that's why I swim. That's why I do what I do, and I've been holding on to that for as long as I can remember. So I feel like when you're young, give it everything you have for what you want to do, and what you want to accomplish. But remember that having fun's the biggest thing. Like enjoy yourself and make relationships like along the way. Have fun on your trips. Don't take stuff too seriously, because I think that's something when you make your first trip, you're like, oh, I need to be serious. I can't walk too much. I can't do this. Like, yes, be focused, but enjoy yourself. Take advantage of every opportunity, and yeah, that's all I have to say.
I think that's a perfect place to leave things off. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no